Good evening, Chair Howerton, County Commissioners, County Attorney, and County Manager, as well as staff and citizens. It is 7 p.m. We do have everyone on the line, so we can get started.
Good evening, board members, and good evening, citizens of Durham. I want to call the Board of County Commissioners December 14th, 2020 meeting to order at 7 p.m. We'll start with reading the public charge. The Board of Commissioners asks its members and citizens to conduct themselves in a respectful, courteous manner, both with the board and fellow citizens. At any time, should any member of the board or any citizen fail to observe this public charge, the chair will ask the offending person to leave the meeting until that individual regains personal control. Should decorum fail to be restored, the chair will recess the meeting until such time that a genuine commitment to the charge is observed. Excuse me just a second. It's these electrical gadgets that young people know how to manage. Okay, I'd like to ask Commissioner Alum if she will do the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
Thank you, Chairwoman Howerton. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And what I failed to mention is to turn off our phones. I think I just did that. Are there any agenda adjustments? Thank you. Announcements. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to my fellow commissioners. Thank you to Commissioner Jacobs, Commissioner Carter, Commissioner Alum, and Commissioner Burns for electing me as the chair of the board. I am excited to be your new chair. I look forward to serving you as your partner on this board for this year. And also, let's see if there's any other things I want to say before. So announcements. Are there any other announcements that are not listed? So we have a few announcements, and I'm going to mention some of them, and then some we're going to just notify the public that they can be found on our website. The first one is their free fruits and vegetables, Mount Vernon Baptist Church, located on 1007 South Roxborough Road, will be distributing free fruits and vegetables to the Durham community. Distribution will take place on Thursday, December 17th, from 1 p.m. until 3 p.m. Welcome Babies annual coat drive, and that's coming up January. It's underway now, and it will continue until January 8th, 2021. Accepting new or gentle used coats, hats, gloves, scarves for newborns to size 8. Donations are accepted at 8 locations across Durham County library systems. That's Bragtown Branch, North Regional, East Regional, South Regional, and Stanford Warren Library and the main library. So there's a new screening process at Human Service Building. Just going to touch on these briefly. Durham County Library virtual events. You can find the information on the website. Durham Technical Community College, back to work initiatives. Please be sure to go to the website to find that information. We really want to support our citizens with the back to work initiatives that Durham Tech has going on there. There's free COVID testing sites. You can find all of that information on your website, and that's www.dconc.gov. Okay, the next one. So those are our announcements. I'm going to go to the minutes. We have minutes for December 7th. But minutes for December 7th and is it November the 23rd?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. The work session minutes from December 7th and the regular session minutes from November 23rd.
So I'm going to pull the minutes for December 23rd. There are some questions there I'd like the clerk to go over and then bring them back to us the 1st of January. If I can have a motion to approve the minutes for December 7th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? And I think we have to get a voice vote.
Okay.
Okay, we'll start with Commissioner Jacobs,
Yes.
Commissioner Lom,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So that passes 5-0. Thank you. We have any citizens' comments?
Hi, Commissioner Howerton. This is Monica Tuma, the clerk to the board. We did receive one citizen comment during the open time frame, which started on Thursday through Sunday at 12 p.m. The comment was received from Barbara Jacobs, and it reads, I would like to submit the following statement for the public comment period at the next Durham County Commissioners meeting on December 14th. Thank you very much for your help. Enjoy the weekend, but stay safe. I read an article in the October 20th N&O about County Manager Wendell Davis's decision to grant hazard pay to many Durham County employees beginning March 15th. I assume he had the power to award this. However, I was quite surprised to hear that he had not informed the county commissioners after he made this decision. Next, I listened to the November 9th County Commissioner meeting. I learned that nothing had been budgeted for this. Is Mr. Davis sure that we are getting 100% for this spending from the federal government? Otherwise, why does it not appear in the budget? As a resident and taxpayer, I am concerned that the spending may not be fully reimbursed. Funds will have to be found to cover this spending. Our revenues will be down and our social service needs are ever greater. Does Mr. Davis realize that our revenues are very limited and are funded by the taxpayers of Durham County? It seems that he does not care. But even more important, I am concerned that Mr. Davis felt that there was no need to mention the increased spending to the commissioners back in March when he made the decision. Why did he not mention it at the next meeting? Was he hiding it? This kind of non-communication makes me wonder what else he may not be communicating. We must be able to trust our county manager and he must be fully transparent. 30+ years ago, my father and his brothers formed a group called Citizens for Responsible Government in Greensboro. I am proud to be following in their footsteps. That ends the comment that was received by citizen Barbara Jacobs. I do want to note to the commissioners that there was one additional comment received after the comment period ended, and it came from Dr. Livonia Allison, and that was emailed to you guys separately. It will also be placed in our minutes, and it will also be placed on the website.
Thank you, Monica. Ceremonial items, we have one, and that is a resolution to support the NCACC, that's the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Presidential Initiative promoting food system resiliency. And I want to really thank Deborah Craig Ray for putting this together. So this resolution is in support of the, as I said, the North Carolina Association Presidential Initiative to promote food systems resiliency. And given that it is also part of our initiatives here in Durham, I thought it connects to what we're doing and also across the state. And I'm going to read part of it. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but read portions of it. And then all of the commissioners will sign it and it will be forwarded to the association. So it says, whereas access to food is a basic human need and is vital to the well-being of a community, and whereas all 100 North Carolina counties are committed to ensuring the needs of their citizens are met, and whereas food security, defined as reliable access to quality, affordable food, is vital to all thriving community, and food insecurity threatens the fiber of a healthy society. And whereas according to the Feeding America's annual map of meal gap study, which is in your agenda, conducted to improve our understanding of food insecurity and food costs at the local level, the average food insecurity rate across North Carolina's counties is 14%. And Feeding America projects that the rate will rise to 19.3% due to the pandemic. And whereas Durham County has a food insecurity rate of 22%. And I'll skip down here, whereas county commissioners have a responsibility to ensure the basic needs of our citizens, that our citizens are met. And the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, under the direction of President Ronnie Smith, will be leading a task force to address food systems resiliency to help counties take action to ensure the resources we need are getting to the people. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Durham Board of County Commissioners do hereby resolve to support the work of the NCACC task force and will commit to examining the food system in Durham County and take steps to help strengthen the system and the service of sustaining thriving communities. This is the 14th day of December 2020, and all of the commissioners will sign that and it'll be forwarded on to the association. So now we'll go ahead to our consent agenda. I've asked the manager if he'll go through the consent agenda. These are items that we've discussed prior, and the manager will take that through.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening to the members of the board. Item 603 is the VOCA Water Technologies. It's a contract amendment in the Utilities Division, and it's going to increase that contract by about 5% to a total of $76,517, and it's primarily to handle odor control down at the facility. Are there any questions there? Hearing none, we will move to item 604, which is essentially the electrical controls and maintenance contract amendment for the Utilities Division also, which is effectively being paid for out of the enterprise fund. Are there any questions on that particular item? Hearing none, we will move to item 633, which is the approval to utilize the existing operating funds in the amount of $1,178,584.02 for this fiscal year for the licensing services for our Microsoft Enterprise Agreement. Are there any questions there? Hearing none, we will go to item 634, which is a utility locating service contract amendment for Taylor, Wiseman, and Taylor. And this is essentially a contract that will increase in the amount of $23,915, bringing it to a total of $117,515. And this is essentially just to help us locate utilities on various projects that we work on throughout the county. Are there any questions there? Item 637 is essentially a construction materials testing service for the special inspections that will be required in order to construct the force main project for the Snow Hill Lift Station. Are there any questions there? Hearing none, we will move to item 650, which is essentially a execution of a master development plan, as well as a revised letter of commitment for the loan for 300 East Main Street and the Affordable Housing Development Project.
Mr. Manager, I have a number of questions about this. I actually, when was the last time that this board discussed the master development agreement? It seems like it was a really long time ago.
I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I think that Perry Mans is probably on, or either Jay Gibson. They may be able to answer that question.
So Commissioner Jacobs, is that one you want to pull?
Yeah, I would like to pull it. I would like to know if this could be on our work session. And our January 4th work session, because I have a lot of concerns and a lot of questions about the master developer agreement, since this is the template for these projects. And I don't know how much time the other commissioners spoke about it during orientation, but I'm very confused about the 74-page agreement. And I think if we can to actually have time for in-depth explanation at our January 4th work session, that would even be the best approach.
So are you asking to pull it tonight so we can move this to the bottom of the agenda, to the end of the agenda, to have the conversation?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The next item is item 651, which is the execution of a contract for the construction materials testing for special inspections. Also for the 300 East Main Street structured parking project with Falcon Engineering. Are there any questions there? Moving on, the next item is item 653, which is a capital project amendment. And this is essentially $20.8 million of limited obligation bonds for the most part for the same project that we've been talking about at 300 East Main.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair or Mr. Manager, I don't necessarily want to pull this and hold it to the end, but at some point, I would love to hear more about the workforce development component that was mentioned in our packet. It seemed really promising, really something that we might want to highlight. I was pleased to see it, and I'd love to learn more about it at some point.
So, good evening, Manager. This is Perry Mans, Deputy Director for County Engineering. Commissioner, thanks for highlighting that. That's a very important point, and it's something that we're trying out for the first time actually on this project. And I would like to give kudos to LaChase and Wrightville. I think Carl Davis is on the call, and he can certainly give more information about the workforce development.
Perry, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, did you want to go ahead and get into a discussion of the question now, or did you want this item pulled?
The rules say we have to pull it and put it at the back. Not for discussion at this moment.
Is that okay with you, Perry?
In that case, I mean, I really would feel badly about asking the representative from LaChase to stay till the very end of the meeting. Maybe we could just hear about it at another time. I mean, unless staff thinks that's a good idea. I really was just trying to highlight something really positive, but I don't necessarily want to have staff wait to the end of the meeting.
Well, Perry, what we can do if we're going to discuss the master development plan at the January work session, we can follow up on that issue then if it's okay. The one question I did want to ask regarding the master development plan piece, item 650 specifically, was were there any time sensitivity issues associated? There are. Right. That's what I thought.
Yes, Manager. And so I wanted to get the others on the call to weigh in on that. I know Ron is on the call. We were trying to meet a January deadline for the for the North Carolina Housing Finance. So I'll let Ron speak on that.
Yeah, good evening.
Also, this is Susan. And also, as it relates to this, it's been reviewed by legal. I know Anthony's been involved. Our financial advisor has been involved in reviewing this agreement, as well as the letter of intent to make sure that both sides are protected, not just the county, but also the people that will be in the housing unit, and as far as the developer too, to make sure that it's reasonable and not too stressful on him. So I just wanted you to know that.
So are we pulling it for more conversation, or are we moving it to work session? What is it that's needed here?
So, Madam Chair, what we're hearing from staff is that there are some North Carolina housing financing deadlines that's associated with the project. So we may have to take action on it tonight. If you would like to, I'm speaking of 650 now, the one that was raised earlier by Commissioner Jacobs. If staff is suggesting in order to meet the deadlines, we need to take action on it tonight, we may need to take action on it and then come back for a subsequent discussion to address whatever questions Commissioner Jacobs has at the January work session.
Could I ask a question, Madam Chair?
Sure.
I would just, I know by virtue of the fact that it is on consent agenda, you all have gone over this in work session. Many people have worked on it. It's clear how many people have spoken up. I guess my question to Commissioner Jacobs, are your concerns at this point things that you would not feel comfortable about voting on it tonight, especially since so many people have gone over and you all have gone over in work session? And if that is indeed the case, do you feel comfortable pushing it to January? And I guess that's my question for Commissioner Jacobs. Really quick.
Thank you. Well, the point is we actually haven't gone over it in a very long time, maybe a year. I don't remember the last time that we actually looked at the master development agreement. So that's why I asked, because I don't. That's, and I do have some questions, but Commissioner Chair Howard suggested putting it at the end of the consent agenda. So why don't we talk about it then? Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's move on.
I stopped on item 653. That was the lobs. And I just wanted to see if there were any questions there. I don't think I heard any.
Okay,
Moving on, we're going to go to item 661, which is the removal of a citizen board member for poor attendance. Item 662 is also the removal of a citizen for poor attendance on a board. Item 663 is approval of a contract amendment adding $400,000 to the homeless housing contract with Reinvestment Partners. Are there any questions there?
I have some questions on that. I'm a little confused. How much from the original contract is being continued, and then how much of it is new spending? Is one question. And also, I was wondering, it was mentioned about there being a possible MOA. If that just if you could tell us all a little bit more about that.
so
And
is that one you want to pull? Is that one you want to pull as well, Commissioner Jacobs?
No, I think it could probably be answered real quickly by staff.
If it can be answered and
Because obviously we didn't have a work session. We didn't have a work session this month. That's why we're hearing all this stuff for the first time. So, yeah.
The policy is that we go through the consent agenda as much as we can and then just move the things to the items that you have questions to the back of the agenda.
Fine.
And you
That's
have
fine.
time to discuss them rather than just getting a quick answer.
Sounds fine.
Okay, great. Because someone else may have a question as well. All right.
All right. The next item is the budget item 665, which is a budget ordinance amendment on the interlocal agreement with the city of Durham for the CARES Small Business Grant Program in the amount of $250,000. Are there any questions regarding that particular item?
I also had a very quick question because this hadn't been on our work session, but if you want me to pull it for the one question, I'll do that. That's fine. Whatever you prefer, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
So we're pulling 665. Okay. Item number 667 is the next item, which is the budget amendment for the Recovery and Resiliency Community Development Block Grant. And that's for our Social Services Department, and the funds are in the amount of $5,263,411. Are there any questions there? Hearing none, we will go to item 668, which is a property tax release and refund report for the month of November. Are there any questions there? Item 673 is next on our consent agenda. It's a budget ordinance amendment appropriating $376,350 of general COVID reserve money for the contract extension and approval for the continued home delivered meals for our food insecurity work. Are there any questions there?
Mr. Manager, Madam Chair, I literally have a yes, no question.
Okay,
Okay,
go ahead.
thank you. I did want to say how pleased I am to see this. So I think it's great. And I also wanted to thank you, Chair Howerton, for bringing forward the resolution about food security. I think it's one of our most pressing issues. My quick question is the amount of money, would the current remaining balance available from the original set aside for COVID of 4.5 million now be $819,996 if we, after we approve this? I'm just trying to get a handle on how much money is left in that set aside fund, and I feel like I read that somewhere and just want confirmation on that.
The budget staff can confirm that number.
Commissioner Carter, this is Keith Lane, Budget Director. I believe there's a little over $800,000 left in the designated COVID-related dollars.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The next item is 680, which is the approval of the interlocal agreement between the county and the city for the related facility use of the Durham Crisis Response Center and recognize $85,508 in funding from the city to the county to support the facility use. Are there any questions there?
Mr. Manager, I don't have a question on that, but I forgot to ask a quick question on 0667. The additional funding for rental assistance, is this, I guess I was confused. Does this include the, so the 2.4 million HOPE funding is separate that we got originally? And this is this all additional HOPE funding, not including the original 2.4 million we got before?
Ben will answer that question.
If Ben can get the buttons to work correctly. Good evening, everybody. And I have Janine and Kelly online as well too, I believe. Can you guys come online? Because I actually was a little thrown by the number when I heard it read. So I wanted to make sure, because our additional HOPE funding was about 3.6 million. So Kelly, but I think
Sure.
I heard 5. Can you address maybe what that might be?
Yeah, so this is in addition to the 2.4. It is an additional 5.2, and you'll remember that 15% is administrative funds. So
administrative.
In the attachment,
Yes, we do.
There's a yes. So direct client is was originally a little over 2 million,
Right.
and we're adding 4.4 million to that for a total of 6.5 direct to client. And then the admin is 15%.
That's true. Yeah, my mindset was in
that.
service money. But we do have
I'm
a
sorry.
15%.
Okay, you
My
said that.
mindset was in the service and 15% administration. So yeah,
Okay,
that's
a
it.
little confused. So 6.5 is going to be for rental and utility assistance. And how much is admin?
1.157 million is allocated to administer the program, which brings it to a total of 7.7 million, and not to exceed 7.7 million.
Okay, wow, this is amazing. So we're getting an additional $6.5 million for rental assistance for residents, or rental and utility. Is that right?
Well, it's not an additional, but it's 4.4. Yeah,
Okay.
4.4 additional
4.4
to client.
Okay,
And
on top of the original.
789.
Okay, wow, but still,
Yes,
that's
yeah,
really
high
fantastic.
volume.
And I just want to jump in here if I can. I know we're pulling it, but I want to make it very clear to all parties on the phone that every opportunity to explain how in-core funding was distributed was made to everyone at the county and the city level for months on end. So in the event that there are questions, while I can appreciate that we are asking staff, I would urge everyone, Durham is not in my portfolio for obvious reasons, but I would urge anyone on this call who has questions, because again, I kept my mouth closed because these questions for me are very troubling. People saying in addition to, not in addition to. And again, I spoke with past commissioners as well as current ones about how this funding was to be allocated. I would urge you to actually reach out to HOPE and reach out to NCORE if you have any questions, so as not to have any continued confusion, because that the same thing persisted on the city call. And what we don't want to do is mislead the public about potential funding from state agencies, especially when some of it might be running out on December 31st. So I just want to throw that out there. I do think that the staff did an excellent job of explaining it. I'm sorry that it's not coming off clear to some folks. And if need to, and I'm sorry that I'm taking up so much time, Madam Chair, I would be more than happy to talk to those who continue to be confused about how these numbers are allocated. And that's all I have to say about that.
So thank you, staff and Commissioner Burns. If there's more conversation to be had about this item, I'd like to go ahead and get through the consent agenda. And those that need to be pulled and have more conversation, let's put them at the back of the agenda and have the conversation that you need to have.
So, Madam Chairman, we had one item left, which was 680, and I don't think that I heard any questions pertaining to that particular item. And if there are none, that concludes the consent agenda, absent those items that have in fact been pulled for questions later on, which is our master development plan, 650 and I think 665.
650 and 665 were the two that was pulled. Was it 663 as well? Or was it just two?
I noted those two. Did you have a third one, Commissioner Jacobs?
Well, I had 663. I had some questions, and 650, and I only had a one-line question related to 665 that I don't really think it needs to be pulled. I simply was going to ask if we could get a copy of the recipients, a list of who receives the grants, if that could be provided to us.
Okay. All right. So we won't pull 665. You can that can be directed to staff to get that for you. So if I can get a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 0650 and 0663.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda sans 6650 and 0663.
And a second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's right. I have to
By name.
remember, you have to get the voice vote.
Right.
Commissioner Alam? Commissioner Alam?
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Yes.
Commissioner Burns?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. It's 5-0. It's approved, the consent agenda. The next item is a public hearing. Find my notes. So the public hearing we have.
Okay, well, I'll still hang out and make sure they don't bring up anything.
What was that?
My apologies, he has been muted.
Oh. It was a different conversation. Okay. So we have the first public hearing will be on, it's 674. The adoption of a resolution related to authorization of $70 million in general obligation bonds, and staff person on that is Susan Tizak. Who's on that? Is a staff person on that one?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, do you want to present that one?
Well, basically what we're doing is we're issuing the second tranche of the $170 million bond referendum that was approved back in 2016. We had a ban, and we've spent just about all that ban. So now what we're doing is issuing the GEO refunding bond to refund the bans, which was our line of credit. So what I'm asking the board to do is to open up the public hearing. And then naturally that has to stay open for 24 hours because this is a virtual meeting. And then I think the plan is to reconvene on the 16th.
Yes.
So so what you'll be voting on is the bond order that will be published the next day, the 17th, and you'll be voting for approval of the resolution. And within the resolution is the 3 attachments that I sent you, that I attached also: the official statement, the Appendix A, where we're bragging about how wonderful Durham is, and the bond purchase agreement with the financing institution, and those are embedded within the resolution. So when you approve the resolution, you are indeed, in fact, approving those as well.
Okay. So staff those commissioners have any questions related to this item?
Chair Howerton, I had a question, please.
Go ahead.
Susan, so I assume, is this related to the good interest rates right now that we're trying to take advantage of them? Is that what the thinking is behind?
Well, our plan is we do bank financing because of the low interest rates. And then within a 3-year period, we issue the bonds to pay off the line of credit. So it's time. And so that's part of it from a timing perspective, and to make sure that we adhere to our policy. And then the second part is the fact that rates are really good. So we're very fortunate.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from commissioners?
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you to Susan and her team for all the hard work. Every time she presents in front of me, I feel like I grow 10 feet. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's great.
So I'll open the public hearing. And are there any comments from citizens?
Chair Howerton, at this time, we do not have any comments from any citizens.
Okay, thank you. So as Susan just said, in order to allow 24 hours receipt of comments in accordance with the North Carolina General Statute, we are conducting the public hearing, but we will not be closing this. It needs to continue until Wednesday, December 16th at 9 a.m., which we'll come back and the board will take a vote at that time.
12:40, I believe.
Okay. Is that conversation? That's a different conversation going on. Okay. We'll move on to another public hearing. That's 0670, a public hearing to consider allocating economic development funds to the Clorox company. And let's see, who's the staff person on this one? Is that Andy? There you are. Yes. Okay. Andy.
Yes,
You
yes.
wanna take it?
Absolutely. Good evening, commissioners, Mr. Manager. My name is Andy Miracle. I'm the Durham County Economic Development Officer. The board is requested to hold a public hearing to consider allocating a total of $50,000 in economic development funds to the Clorox company and authorize the county manager to enter preliminary negotiations and execute an agreement with the company. The Clorox company, a leading multinational manufacturer and marketer of consumer and professional products, will create 158 new jobs and invest $7.5 million in Durham County. Since 1913, the Clorox Company has manufactured and marketed household cleaning, home care, and personal care products in more than 100 companies or countries. The company's Better Health BMS division focuses on vitamins, minerals, and supplements. Clorox will establish a new research and development facility and expand corporate operations for Better Health and Burt's Bees, which currently employs more than 500 people between its headquarters in Durham and a manufacturing facility in Morrisville. Approximately 60 of the new jobs or IT positions that will require a range of education and experience from an associate's degree to a master's degree. With approval of the award, the company has agreed to make reasonable efforts to participate in several workforce partnerships that include engagements with NC Works Career Center, as well as providing paid internships, deploying their diversity purchasing policy, and participating in minority purchasing trade events. Please find additional project details, terms, and project attributes in the briefing sheet attached to the agenda item. The Clorox Company's expansion will be facilitated in part by a job development investment grant approved by the state's Economic Investment Committee on November 24th. Over the course of the 12-year term of the grant, the project is estimated to grow the state's economy by more than $462 million. Payments for all JDIG and local awards only occur following performance verification that the company has met its incremental job creation and investment targets. The anticipated revenue that the project will generate is twice the size of the proposed local award. And as previously mentioned, payment to the company occurs only after the annual verification of jobs and investment criteria starting in 2022. Staff is recommending that the county provide $50,000 in economic development investment funds to the Clorox Company, subject to performance goals being met by the company related to timing and amount of investment, employee creation and maintenance of the created jobs, as well as partnership engagement criteria. This public hearing has been advertised as required by law, and that concludes my comments on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Are there any questions from any member of the board?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Carter.
Thank you. Andy, I think did you say that our award will be half of what their investment is, or half of what the increased tax revenue will be? It seems like it's only a quarter of it.
That is correct. Yeah, I was speaking to the cap that we have, but you are correct.
Right. Yeah, right. You're right. The cap's 50%, but in this case, we're only doing about 25%. Yes, I mean, I'm thrilled that we're doing Clorox, right? But let's, the smaller our award needs to be better. I also just wanted to highlight some of the community benefits. I mean, you mentioned some, Andy. The paid summer internship is huge. I just really am grateful to the company for being willing to do that. And also the fact that they have sustainable building design and construction and operating practices is super important to our board, I know, and helps us meet our renewable energy goals and our greenhouse gas emission goals going forward. And I really want to hold that up and encourage more companies coming here to match that particular community benefit.
That's right.
So I just wanted to say that and to say how excited I am about this this expansion here, and the Burt's Bees connection is not that's not missed.
Right.
It's really great. Hi, Matt.
I was about to say the same thing.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter, and I'm gonna get Matt in just a second here. And thanks for highlighting those things. I think that's pretty exciting for all of us. So are there no other questions for commissioners? Commissioner Jacobs?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Andy, I just want to clarify this. This was a joint where the city also did an incentive as well. Is that correct?
The city will be, they will be considering this at a future regular meeting as well.
Okay. And I want to point out another highlight that in addition to all the things that Commissioner Carter pointed out, is that it's just also great to incentivize workplaces downtown. That actually used to be one of our incentive goals, which I think we removed, but because to create a work, live, play environment and create walkable jobs or jobs that are near a bus station was something else that I know that we consider important. The county's made a lot of investment in downtown Durham. Andy, I was wondering, how are we going to track a lot of these things like the internships, and especially on the next one with bioagilitics? There's some really specific commitments. I know we've got an awesome economic development website. Thank you very much for all of your hard work on that, Andy. That's up, just newly launched. But I just want to hear how are we going to, like, every year go back and check in with the companies? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as the agreement is currently structured, or all agreements are structured, every year there's an annual jobs and investment targets that have to be met in order to qualify for payment. So I think, kind of given that arrangement, we would look to do something akin to a general annual report on all of the incentive payments that are made for that year. You know, as you can see with this project, the investments aren't starting until 2022. So then the first year of payment will be 2023. So it'll be some time before these come online. But as you know, with the agreements that we currently have in place, that's the approach that we'll take moving forward.
Okay, that's great. And I think it's important that those reports are shared with the public as well. So if we can add them to, I know you said we're gonna have some page up there around the incentives, and however we can share directly the accountability with the community with those reports. Thank you.
Mr. Miracle, I want to jump in as well. If I'm not mistaken, aren't you all going to do as you've always done and almost quarterly, if not biannually, track FTEs so that we know that they're keeping up with their hiring practices over the time limit that we've given them?
That is correct. With the annual reporting includes quarterly reports.
That's right. So we don't have to worry about them getting behind. Like, we would know if they have said, again, as you've always done, and you always do a bang up job. So, you know, I'm a big fan. In the event they say they're going to hire 10 people, as has always been your practice, you do not wait until December to get to 10. That quarterly tracking, so that we're both protected, both that company and our county, and our citizens are protected. We tracked those hires, correct?
Well, yes, the way it's currently structured is the quarterly reports are submitted as part of the annual report.
Absolutely. Okay, that was all I was just clarifying. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that I wasn't just referring to the hires. I'm referring to all the community benefits that is brand new that we're doing. That's not just the hires, but the full package.
I understood your question. I had another one for Andy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if there are no other questions from commissioners, any other questions from the commissioners? And I don't know if you said it, Andy, or not, but and Commissioner Carter may have mentioned it, but it was great to see that some of the jobs that you will have will not require an advanced degree. So that's great to know. So I will open the public hearing. Any public comments? I see Matt Kopak there. Would you like to make comments?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may. Good evening, Madam Chair Howerton, members of the board, Manager Davis, and staff. My name is Matt Kopak, resident of Durham, and the Sustainable Business and Innovation Manager for Burt's Bees. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and address you this evening on behalf of the Clorox Company. In preparation for tonight, y'all have reviewed a lot of information from Clorox about the company, our commitments to this community, to sustainability, to inclusion and diversity. So I thought I would just provide a bit of context and a little history, if I may take a couple minutes to do so. Just a bit of an idea of how we got here. So Burt's Bees was founded in rural Maine in 1984, which was actually a really hard place to grow a business. And while looking for a place to potentially relocate in the early 90s, our co-founders, Bert Shavitz and Roxanne Quimby, were invited by North Carolina's Tourism and Commerce Board for a visit to the state. And so Bert stepped off the plane with his Birkenstocks and wild hair and scruffy beard. And he and Roxanne were taken on a whirlwind tour around the region by the area chambers of commerce. And following that visit, Bert and Roxanne decided to relocate their nascent business to the area in 1994 because of its great manufacturing labor force, access to distribution channels for the business, and overall strong business climate. After moving around the region a couple times over the years, in 2000, Burt's Bees settled in southern Durham County, where we still have our manufacturing plant, which is the center of our global production for global distribution. We were acquired by Clorox in 2007, and in 2010, with the help of local incentives, like were mentioned by, I believe, Commissioner Jacobs, we took a leap and relocated the business to downtown Durham in the American Tobacco campus. In 2017, Durham became a hub for an expanded IT department for Clorox, which is located in our Burt's Bees facility. And now in 2020, we're really excited about this opportunity, the potential for the Clorox company to expand further and accelerate its growth even further in Durham. The deal would make Durham the second headquarters for this Fortune 500 company. And as Mr. Miracle mentioned, the new home of our Better Health Vitamins, Minerals, and Supplements division. I love the fact that the story of Burt's Bees and Clorox are becoming part of the story, are part of the story of Durham, and that a former tobacco warehouse is the home to a global health and beauty hub, and that we can bring even more jobs to this community through this deal. I think Mr. Miracle talked about the different stats about the job growth expected, the investment, and our broader commitment to this community. So I just want to say thank you for your consideration of a local contribution and for all the work that's been done to make this deal possible for the benefit of Durham residents and our broader community. So thank you all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Matt. And I see Jeff Durham here as well. Sure. Jeff, would you like to have something to say on this topic?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, commissioners, Mr. Manager, staff, neighbors, and welcome again to Commissioners Alam and Burns. I'm Jeff Durham, President and CEO of the Durham Chamber. Always fun to follow a great public speaker like Matt Kopak. So thanks, Matt, for having to set the stage like that for me. But anyway, we are so excited to support the growth of a great corporate citizen like Clorox Company and Burt's Bees. As you all know, these jobs carry significant multiplier effect, and working with the state and the city, we were able to ensure that the workforce development, education, and other community partnerships are leveraged so that these opportunities can further benefit our whole community. The Chamber looks forward to continuing to facilitate our work together with the county, and I thank you for having me this evening.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, so
Howerton,
yes,
I did receive one citizen comment.
Sure.
From Dr. Lavonia Allison. She stated in writing that she was requesting an explanation on how the company was relating and confirming the MWBE certification set by the county. And she also wanted to know the company's plan to partnership to support local minorities in schools, colleges, and with training.
Okay. Who would like to answer that? Is that you, Andy?
Yeah, Matt may be able to speak in more informed detail, but Clorox will be deploying their current corporate diversity purchasing policy and programming that they have in place. Matt, I'm not certain if you're able to supplement that more, but we will certainly look for opportunities where available, if there are opportunities to strengthen those connections within the community and within Durham as well. So.
Yeah, I'll just add that this is a major priority for the company. I think in 2010, the company spent about $150 million with diverse suppliers. There's tracking that goes along with it at the company level, and that focuses on minority, women, service disabled, veteran, as well as gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender business owners in the US and Puerto Rico. I don't have specific details at this point about how that will be deployed locally, but I know that that is a big priority for the company writ large, and we look forward to partnering with the county and other local organizations to be able to bring that to life in Durham as well, where appropriate, based on the goods and services that are needed from a procurement standpoint. Of course, it also goes without saying from an employee standpoint as well, that diversity and inclusion are really critical for the company. Clorox recently launched a new inclusion diversity strategy, which you can find on the corporate website. And it is something that I know from the CEO on down is a major area of focus and something that we're working really intentionally on. In terms of the schools, I think that will tap into some of the commitments around paid internships and our existing and still future partnerships with Durham Public Schools, and looking forward to build that out further, as we now will have a much larger employee base. And the presence, as I said, of this, not only is the site and headquarters of a division of Clorox, but now a second headquarters, that I'm hopeful we can look for additional ways to grow some of those local partnerships.
Thank you, Matt. And I'm probably, if you could, can you have something in writing to us, and you get us something that's documented, so that we have something to refer back to. Knowing Dr. Allison, she will want something in writing that you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I don't know if the meeting's being recorded, but certainly happy to partner with Andy and Jeff and partners at the chamber to have something that's documented that can be shared back.
That would be great. Thank you.
Chair Howerton, I also have Nicole Thompson on the line from downtown Durham. She's the CEO and president. I believe she also would like to speak as well.
Yes, Nicole.
Good evening, commissioners, Mr. Manager, and Durham County staff, and a special congratulations to Chair Howerton and the new commissioners, Alam and Burns. As president and CEO of Downtown Durham, Inc., I'm here to speak in support of the county's participation in this partnership to help increase the Clorox company's presence in Durham. Burt's Bees and Clorox have been an important part of Durham, and especially our downtown ecosystem, for over 20 years. As you may know, the corporate headquarters of Burt's Bees, and of course you do because Matt just shared that with you, but as you may know, the corporate headquarters of Burt's Bees, along with the 300 square foot cabin of Burt's Bees co-founder Bert Chavitz, are located in downtown Durham. With the latest announcement, Clorox will expand its corporate presence in Durham by adding a second headquarters, its Better Health Vitamins, Minerals, and Supplement business. This expansion demonstrates Durham's increasing popularity among global, national, and regional corporations. Not to be overlooked are the numerous ways that Clorox has been a true community partner in Durham. Just one such example is their incredible work it did for the Corporate Partnership for Durham COVID-19 Recovery Fund. This initiative funded 31 nonprofit organizations providing food, housing, childcare, and education to the Durham community. And I can only assume that Clorox will continue to be a strong corporate supporter, sponsor, and partner in Durham. So I am too excited to support Clorox growth within Durham and all the benefits it will bring to Durham and downtown and throughout the county. Thank you very much for this time.
Thank you, Nicole. Are there any other questions from commissioners? So again, this is, we will not close the public hearing. The same statement I read earlier for the other one, and I'll just read this again. In order to allow for 24 hours of receipt of comments in accordance with North Carolina General Statute, conducting a public hearing at a virtual meeting, the board will need to continue the meeting till Tuesday, December 16th, 2020, and adopt to adopt this. We have
Madam Chair, if I may, Madam Chair, just to be clear that
Okay.
Persons have until actually 24 hours from this evening's meeting to file any additional comment if they're going to do so. So we're essentially recessing the meeting until December 16th at 9 o'clock.
Okay. Keep me straight,
You're straight.
Attorney.
You're
Thank you. All right, we have one more, and I think this is Andy as well. Public hearing to consider allocating economic development funds to BOCC slab.
That is correct.
Is that you, Andy?
That is me as well.
All right.
Commissioners, the board is requested to hold a public hearing to consider allocating a total of $395,000 in economic development funds to BioAgilytics Labs, LLC, and authorize the county manager to enter preliminary negotiations and execute an agreement with the company. BioAgilytics Labs, LLC is a leading life science testing company that will be creating 878 jobs and investing $61.5 million in Durham County. BioAgilytics was founded in Durham in 2008 and maintains its headquarters there, while also operating laboratory locations in the Cambridge area of Massachusetts and Hamburg, Germany. The company specializes in large molecule bioanalysis and provides a wide portfolio of services supporting the development and release testing of biologics across a number of industries and disease states. Of the newly created positions included are approximately 215 lab operations positions that will require a range of experience in education between a high school diploma through a bachelor's degree and multiple years of experience, as well as approximately 170 analyst positions requiring between an associate's degree through a master's degree and multiple years of experience. With approval of the award, the company has agreed to make reasonable efforts to participate in several workforce development partnerships that include engagements with DPS, Career and Technical Education, Durham Technical Community College, NC Works Career Center, and NC Central University. Please find additional project details, including a full list of partnerships, terms, and project attributes in the briefing sheet attached to the agenda item. BioAgilytics project in North Carolina will be facilitated in part by a job development investment grant approved by the state's Economic Investment Committee on October 29th. Over the course of the 12-year term of the grant, the project is estimated to grow the state's economy by $2.8 billion. Payments for all JDIG and local awards only occur following performance verification that the company has met its incremental job creation and investment targets. The anticipated revenue that the project will generate is twice the size of the proposed local award, and payment to the company occurs only after the annual verification of jobs and investment criteria starting in 2023. Staff is recommending that the county provide $395,000 in economic development investment funds to BioAgilytics Labs, LLC, subject to performance goals being met by the company related to timing and amount of investment, employee creation and maintenance of the created jobs, as well as partnership engagement criteria. This public hearing has been advertised as required by law. And while that does conclude my comments on this item, we do have a company representative joining us for this call when you are ready to receive those comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Questions from the board staff?
I just want to say, Madam Chair, even in looking through this package, I mean, if anybody's taking any time to look at the briefing sheet, just some of the things that were really highlighted to me. You know, we talked about internships with the last offer, but the fact that they have committed to 5 internships annually, I think that you know, as we're looking at workforce development, to make that kind of investment in students is huge. And they're not just talking about at the college level; they're talking at the high school level, because we all know that the individuals can go into clinical research, go into clinical trials work, and not have a 4-year degree. I think the other thing that jumps out at me is that they're open to hosting teachers over the summer. We all know that there's at times when we look at what our bachelor's in education degrees invest into some of our teachers, they often want to go back and pick up coding and pick up information in STEM so that they can inspire their students. And I'm actually encouraged to see that these types of, that they're going to allow teachers to come in to shadow. And I just can't wait to see what these teachers are able to bring back to their classrooms. Of course, you know, the investment in working with the Bright Center. I'm always happy to see when people realize that we have to work not only with Duke, but also with NCCU and even with our public libraries. This package, just the holistic approach that it has to embracing our community as a whole here in Durham makes me very excited. And I just look forward to seeing what work they do.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Jacobs?
I just want to echo what Commissioner Burns just pointed out. I was really impressed that you are Bioagiletics even specifying an internship for a high school student and what job it could be linked to, a student at Durham Tech, and then what entry-level position, and then same thing with a college student. So specific education levels being linked to specific entry-level jobs connected to the internship. And so I guess what I would say, Andy, to you is how can we make Bioagiletics a model and really promote what they're doing, because that's really what we need. I think I'm really proud of our board for with your help, Andy, and the chamber and everyone's help for getting to where we are now with our economic incentives policy. But how do we get to the next step of really the accountability? And at the end of the day, what we really want is we want our residents and our kids and our students to get these jobs. That's really what we want. So I guess we don't have to talk about it now, but I think what Bioagiletics is doing is really raising the bar, and how can we do this with other people? The other thing that jumped out at me was their TDM policy. Same thing, very concrete. This is the flexibility we're offering. This percentage of people can work at home. So the more we get the numbers like that, the more we can hold people accountable and measure our performance. So I just want to commend you, Bioagiletics, for helping to raise the bar for all of us, and also to say that North Carolina Central University is responding to these opportunities. They have created a certification in clinical research now for their students, because they are going to put their students directly in line for these 878 jobs at Bioagiletics, and they are actively partnering. So it's fantastic. Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Commissioner Carter?
Yes, thank you. I too want to thank Mr. Beathers for your interest in the Durham area and your commitment to being a really strong corporate citizen. And I would just want to know a little bit of a challenge maybe. In addition to your transportation demand management commitment, are there any to sustainability, environmental sustainability that you all have as part of your corporate ethos, either with construction practices or just general operations? Anything that you could say along those lines for us? I feel like that's a very important element.
Well, good evening. My name is Mark Beathers. I'm pleased to represent Bioagiletics this evening. Madam Chair, Mr. Manager, Commissioners, it's wonderful and awesome opportunity to be part of this community that is so supportive of the business community, and ultimately, indirectly then the very citizens that work here and are engaged to qualify for jobs and be able to return to the community all that comes with those jobs. Bioagiletics has really a story that begins back in 2008 with the Great Recession, where companies were scattering and the unemployment line was growing, and one of those individuals who who was standing in the unemployment line one day, coming out of a Durham-based company, said, you know, there's a better way than staying in this line. You know, even in this environment, there's an opportunity to be an entrepreneur. And it was this very community, Durham, that embraced Action Safavi back in 2008, not with grants, but with a community that had been built and cultivated by efforts of this governing body and predecessors, of course. And it created for him an opportunity that both inspired him and then enabled him to be able to start this business those 13 years ago. He grew it to a point where 8 years ago it attracted the investment of some Boston private equity groups. Of course, Boston is an interesting location in the world of biopharmaceuticals because they are the center of gravity in terms of the talent and workforce that has the ability to both compete as well as supply the talent for our industry. And so their investment was a little bit of a, let's see what they can do down in Durham. Let's watch their facility leases, and at the right moment, let's consider moving this business up to Boston. But at each step of the way, this community proved that it could thrive here. The biotechnology, and particularly the drug development space that we are in there, grows at around a 10%, and in some years 13% per year. And this is in what's called large molecule drugs. So it's more of the innovative, cutting edge forms of drugs that are being developed. And any industry that could year after year grow 10 to 13% is fantastic. But this community allowed Dr. Safavi and those that would come work here triple that growth rate for several years now. We look back and our compound annual growth rate has been north of 30%. Well, the new investors came in a couple of years ago and they saw us reach actually the kind of the end of the current facility that we're in. So we were definitely talking about a second campus, and that was the moment where they said, maybe now is the time, to be growing in the greater Boston area. And so earlier this year, really appreciate all the efforts, both at the state level and here at the county level, to ensure that BioAgilytics understood that the resources that we would need over the next several years to continue to grow at that pace, really an astonishing growth rate, would be provided here, not only in Durham for meeting our needs, but possibly even exceeding our needs. And so first of all, a grand thank you from BioAgilytics to this group to continue to believe in us and our ability to give back to the community in this mutually beneficial way. One of the things that excites us is the opportunity to partner on an ongoing basis in ways that we haven't previously partnered. As a small company, the opportunity to go work directly with the Bright Center, to work even with the high schools around internships, with Durham Technical Community College and J.B. Buxton over there. I mean, these are kind of privileges that we thought, well, us, would they be interested in us? And now to have those opportunities be where they not only take our phone call, but they clear people's calendars and they schedule meetings and invite us over and come over here when those invitations are also extended. Of course, COVID's made that a little bit unfriendly, but we're thriving there. That is an awesome thing. So in the process of 2021, we intend to develop these programs as outlined in the briefing that you read. We still have a lot to learn. And I absolutely want to acknowledge that in places like environmental and sustainability initiatives, we are not as advanced there as we need to be. And these, stand as items that from a strategic imperative are things where we intend to explore, and we have our own investors that are looking to lead the way as they leverage other portfolio company learnings to try to apply those here. But as of today, We don't have a plan to roll out and share with you around our advances that we'll be making in those areas, environmental and sustainability, but our commitment is that we'll develop that plan next year.
Mr. Brothers, that was really great. Thank you so much. I realized that I didn't open the public hearing. So commissioners, let me just ask you if there are any other questions from you for staff before I open the public hearing. Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing. And if you have any questions or if are there any other public comments that anyone wants to, if Mr. Brothers, if you have more public comments, or Jeff, if you have public comments that you'd like to give.
Sure, I'll go ahead and jump in. Thank you, Chair Howerton, and good evening again, commissioners, Mr. Manager, staff, and my Durham neighbors. Again, Jeff Durham, the President and CEO at the Durham Chamber, and we are also super excited to support this particular initiative with bioagiletics and broadly, more broadly, critical industry cluster growth like the ones we're enjoying in life sciences and biotech. To celebrate great Durham stories like the one that Mark shared, and as well as the growth of homegrown companies, bioagiletics, we recognize that this means so much to the broader community for what it can do just beyond the job growth of the investment. So for that, a big thank you to the team. The multiplier effect associated with these life science and biotech jobs is even higher. And again, while working with our partners at the state and the county, we are able to ensure that workforce development initiatives, education, like the partnership that Mark described with new President Buxton at Durham Tech, and other community partnerships are appropriately leveraged so that these opportunities can provide benefit for our whole community. Again, the Chamber looks forward to continuing to facilitate our work together with the county, and thank you to everyone in the meeting this evening.
Thank you, Jeff.
Chair Howerton, I'd also like to note that we did receive an additional comment from Dr. Livonia Allison as well.
Okay.
Her comment, which was the same one for the Clorox company, she did ask for an explanation of how the company was relating and confirming to the MWBE certification set by the county, as well as how the company plans a partnership to support local minorities in schools, colleges, and with training. And we also have Bill Bullock on the line as well.
Okay.
Would you like me to take that?
Yes, hello.
Yes, please.
Okay. So again, as outlined in the briefing, I think in some of the other supporting materials, a number of the plans that we have are really under development, and they are things that we're excited about. Certainly when it comes to diversity and inclusion, as an example, we have engaged an outside consultant, a local Durham consultant, to work with us in doing that. That engagement starts in January. We intend to roll that out. We've announced to all of our employees that initiative is underway. That extends not only to our employment practices, but also the practices engaging with vendors in our community. That was the one part. I apologize. What was the second part to that question?
The second part to the question was, how did you guys plan to support local minorities in schools, colleges, and with training?
So one of the things that bioagiletics is just super proud of is our ability to hire a diverse workforce as it is right now. One of the things that helps us very much is being in this community and being able to hire locally. That's something that we have done a very good job of. Another part that has been, I'd say, a facilitator of that is the employee referral bonuses. We find that our local employees are the ones that have that depth of network here locally that allows us to hire in that space and increase our diversity. We pay a minimum of $2,500 to our employees to refer a successful candidate, as much as $10,000. In 2020, we will finish the year globally having hired over 220 employees, and over 35% of those will have come through referral. So it's a remarkable percentage, particularly for a contract research organization of our size, to have that, and the diversity that comes through those referrals is very strong, and will be supplemented by our D&I strategic practices that, again, we're working with an outside consultant for.
Okay. There are other comments? Mr. Bullock?
Chair Howerton, it looks like we have Bill Bullock with us from NC
Yes.
Biotechnology Center.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Bullock?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Howerton, and welcome. Good evening, commissioners, and a special welcome to the new commissioners, Mr. Manager, staff, friends. I'm here on behalf of the North Carolina Biotechnology Center in support of this partnership to help increase bioanalytics workforce in Durham. As many of you know, the Biotechnology Center has been supporting this industry statewide from our campus in Durham for over 35 years. And I'm just here to briefly add to our excitement on behalf of myself, our CEO, and our entire staff, as we've been supporting this industry and a number of initiatives within the county. And we really look forward to continuing to support this initiative along with Mark and their CEO, Jim Dayton, and their entire team to lend our support to all the benefits that this project will bring to the county and beyond. So just thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. In this season that we're in, and to have this kind of economic development occurring here in Durham, it's very exciting to hear, to think about the citizens of Durham having jobs and well-paying jobs is one of the things that we're all interested in, is that our citizens get jobs that pay well. So we're looking forward to that. So thank you all for being here. So this is, I will not close the public hearing as we've heard tonight. We're going to recess the public hearing for 24 hours, and we'll come back on December 16th to vote on this item. Thank you so much.
Right. Actually, the citizens have an opportunity to comment up to 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, after tonight's meeting. But this part of your process will be continued over until Wednesday, December 16th.
Right. So this is a process, citizens, a new process that we're taking on. So we'll all get used to that.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is our Durham Health, Public Health Focus Update. Our own Public Health Director, Mr. Jenkins, all yours.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Hope you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Thank you very much. Again, a warm welcome to the new members of the board. This is the first time we've been able to meet as a board of county commissioners and not necessarily a joint session. So we certainly extend our welcome to you all. I hope to be brief, but very informative. we are definitely have reason to celebrate today. It's a good day in our pandemic response because vaccine is in North Carolina, and we're certainly happy about that. We're delighted to report that COVID-19 vaccines are here, and we still need to double down on our mitigation and prevention efforts that have gotten us to this momentous day. That includes the 3 W's, of course. I can't say it enough. Wearing your mask properly, remaining socially distant, washing our hands, and again, still making sure that we do those things while vaccination efforts get underway. I have a little bit more of an update on vaccines a little bit later in my presentation. But make no mistake about it, the current surge continues to perform this enormous stress test on our healthcare system. And last week, by far, was probably the toughest week that we've had thus far in Durham County as far as the number of cases and everything. So we did see record numbers of cases that we had not seen since the early summer. But nevertheless, we continue to fight the good fight, and we continue to do all that's necessary to protect our residents. Numbers for your consideration: we currently have a total of active cases of 778. Total inactive or discharged cases from COVID care, 12,108. I believe the last time that we met as a board, or I presented to you all as a board, was November 23rd. And since then, unfortunately, we have had 16 deaths. So that further lets you know that this is a very, very deadly respiratory pathogen. COVID-19 is still wreaking havoc, and this recent surge nationwide, worldwide, is really, really causing a lot of trouble. That brings our total since there have been 16 deaths. That brings our total deaths in Durham County to 131. And our thoughts and prayers are continued to be with these families during this special time when families come together in anticipation of the holiday season. That brings our total number of cases of COVID to 13,022 since the pandemic began. As mentioned, last week was a rough week. This is the first week where we had a 7-day moving average well over 90. In fact, there was 122 cases for the 7-day moving average. That is an increase of 95 from the previous week and 80 2 weeks ago. It's a point worth notating that it represents a 20% increase in cases. I think you'll find that in my narrative that there's no rhyme or reason. It's just a little bit everywhere, and it's in my weekly message to Durham last Friday. I pretty much articulated that it's all the holiday travel and Thanksgiving that we anticipated are starting to come and be realized in the numbers that we're seeing. Total number of cases thus far in the month of December, with nearly half the month gone, is 1,550 total cases. Suffice to say, we continue to see locally and statewide an increase in COVID cases. We always make mention of race and ethnicity because we do everything under the watchful eye of racial equity lens. We want to make sure that we represent all populations. And at present, our Hispanic or Latinx population continues to be overrepresented, but they're at 19.4% of all cases, although they only represent 14% of all Durham residents. Black or African American, for probably the first time in the pandemic, are slightly overrepresented. They represent 40% of all of our cases, although they represent 37% of our population. Underrepresented continues to be our white population, which is 27.76%, although they represent 54% of all Durham residents. We continue to see work and healthcare being directly affected by COVID, and that's to be expected. And that's why frontline workers are first in line to get the COVID vaccine. Hospitals, general medicine, and surgical, along with professional, scientific, and technical services and construction. The unfortunate thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that most recently we're starting to see a lot more females being infected with COVID, particularly in hospital settings where 48.78% of all of our new cases in hospitals are of the Black community, where 82.89% are female. As far as scientific, professional, technical, again, we have 42.86% of all new cases in this field, with 61.9% being white females. And in construction, we continue to see our Hispanic or Latinx population being affected, representing 84.21% of all of our new cases, with an overwhelming majority of 94% being male. So we continue to keep a watchful eye on that. As far as our positive lab percentages, we had a positive lab percentage of 6.3% last week. For the week prior, it was 5.3%. We're grateful for Duke's model that we get every week. They had North Carolina's infections being at 10.4%. Where Durham's percentage was slightly, almost half of that at 5.4%. So we continue to see a positive percentage rate going up, as well as the state's percentage going up as well. And as far as keeping a watchful eye on kids 18 years of age and under, so far they only represent 8.38% of all of our new cases. As mentioned to the members of the board, we're busy with mass vaccination preparation. And just a couple of things that we're doing to really inform you of. As you well know, North Carolina was expected to receive 85,500 doses of COVID vaccine. We're happy that they're here, but of course we know that more is on the way. Local health departments are expected to receive Moderna vaccine sometime next week. We fully expect emergency use authorization to be granted toward the end of this week. And like Pfizer, they should be arriving very soon. So that's extremely encouraging. We're going to continue to adhere to the federal and state's 4-phase approach to vaccine distribution. First up, healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, anyone who plays a role in COVID care, anyone who deals directly with decedents, to include funeral homes professionals, and along with dental professionals, EMS, and others. But then we're also thinking about those people who work in long-term care facilities. And unfortunately in Durham, that's where the majority of our deaths are coming from. Nursing home facilities, those individuals who have decided they did not want to be resuscitated at the time of their illness. So again, we're excited about the vaccine being here, but we certainly know we have a long way to go. We're preparing at a fever pitch at the health department, excuse me. And we have done a number of things. December the 7th, last week, with the help of emergency management, I want to shout out Ari Shine, along with our emergency planner, Corey Morris. They hosted a roundtable workshop, and it was well attended by a number of people. Of course, some of the players were Durham Public Health, Durham City County Emergency Management, Durham Police Department, Durham Fire, Bahama Fire Department, Durham Sheriff's Office, Durham County Manager's Office, North Carolina Emergency Management for the state, Area 10, Durham County EMS, Fire Marshal, Finance. We had a lot of people, but more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, we had people who observed and really saw the great work that Durham was doing. And those observers included Randolph County Emergency Management, Orange County, Alamance County Emergency Management, Winston-Salem Forsyth Emergency Management, North Carolina Public Health Preparedness and Response, the state branch, along with Transitions Life Care. Those were the individuals who came just to hear what Durham is doing. So once again, Durham leads the way. We're working feverishly to collect information from organizations interested in vaccination of their employees, residents, and volunteers. And we're taking a three-pronged approach to that. We're sending out a questionnaire to city and county agencies. We're developing lists of Durham businesses and other organizations that are represented in phase 1A, 1B, and 2, phase 2. We're also contacting these agencies to determine, just to get a ballpark figure, how many people in your organization fit into these phases and their interest in vaccination. So that's ongoing. And then finally, we're providing enrollment information to organizations who want to become a vaccine provider. There's a whole elaborate process for that as well. Finally, we are doing two things, actively doing two things this week. We're planning an in-house tabletop exercise for later this week to work through vaccine planning, logistics, and operational scenarios. And then we're also making plans and working with various groups like the Recovery and Renewal Task Force and a number of different groups about communication. And that could come in the form of roundtables. It could come in the form of having the health director to speak. There's nothing that we will not do in order to promote this vaccine, with particular emphasis on historically marginalized populations, because we know that there's a certain hesitancy there. There's a lot more that could be covered, but for the sake of brevity, I certainly would love to answer any questions you have at this time.
Commissioner Howerton,
Thank
can I
you.
jump in?
Yes, Commissioner Burns.
Really, really quick. First off and foremost, Director Jenkins, you my Dr. Fauci. I tune in every week just to get in, just so I can get an update, so I can, you along with Director Pierce have done the lion's share of this work. Most of it has been hijacked by other people who said that they've done it. I just want you to know, I publicly know who's been doing the work. Also want to give a special shout out to Dr. Alicia Smith, who works under you. As a member of the North Carolina Association of Government Information Officers, you must know 2 weeks ago what pride I felt to see that the Ernest Seneca Lifetime Achievement Award, a past boss of mine, was awarded to Dr. Alicia Smith. And in her citation, they noted that her education and public relations efforts out of your office saved lives. So I know that the numbers don't look great this week, but please know that from me to you on a state, local, and national level, like your work and the work of your department is laudable. I did want to also ask, I know that you mentioned that there would be individuals that the state had actually contracted with someone to specifically reach out to folks in African-American community about vaccinations. We don't have to go over Henrietta Lacks. We don't have to go over Tuskegee. We don't have to go over Indiana. We know that our people are afraid. We don't have to talk about sterilization in this country. But what I do want to know is, have you been briefed on the rollout process on how the state plans to do that work to engage people of color about this vaccine now that it's here?
I'll start in reverse. We have been briefed. However, they've not fully established the rollout plan. But last week, Tuesday, is normally when we have our weekly call with the state, our COVID call with the state. And I was encouraged by the company that presented their plan. It's still in the works, but I fully expect on tomorrow at 1 o'clock to get an additional briefing on how they plan on doing things. So we're excited. And we certainly thank you for the accolades. I'm just the lead singer for a rock star band. And for the most part, I'm blessed to be able to be with some professionals who really, really can get down with the get down. And I really, really appreciate all the warm comments. We're just here to serve the community, and it's a pleasure to serve.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Alam.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Howerton. And thank you so much, Director Jenkins, for your presentation today, as well as during mine and Commissioner Burns' orientation last week. It was extremely helpful to give us a background understanding of all the work that Durham County has been doing to really make sure that Durham County residents are staying safe. I had one question. What type of outreach is being done in the Bahama and Rougemont area when it comes to COVID testing, as well as the plan for residents in that area to receive the vaccine when it becomes available?
I will say that there's no nook and cranny in Durham County proper that we will not go. We are fortunate to be able to have testing on a widespread level, and that's part of the reason why our numbers are pretty high, because you certainly want to test and know where the infection is. At present, as I probably mentioned before, the plan is to bring people into us because of logistical, operational, procedures involved with ultra cold storage and, having the vaccine having to be so cold. But make no mistake about it, the minute that we have some type of apparatus that could travel and we could send a nurse and a data entry professional or admin person to a certain location, that's one of the plans that we have, one of the mandates that I personally have for staff, because we want this vaccine to be administered. We want anybody who wants the vaccine to get vaccinated, because that is the first step in ending the pandemic. We want to make sure that people are confident and making this personal choice, because I make a point to say it is a personal choice, and we certainly want to make sure that people have all the knowledge that they need in order to make an informed decision. But we will certainly definitely make sure that we get to that area. And I thank you for that question.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jacobs.
Thank you, Rod, as always. And so now we know that you're in a rock band, and so that's one of your other talents too, right? I know we heard a lot. You gave a very detailed report, and so did Cam Wolf at the Recovery and Renewal Task Force. And you mentioned during that presentation, I know this is a really challenging logistical situation. And you talked a little bit about how there's going to need to be 2 doses, and what you were able to get for Durham County because of the temperatures that the vaccines need to be stored at. And so if you could just talk a little bit about your plans and just some of the challenges and the strategies around making sure that people come back within 21 days to get that second dose.
Indeed, Madam Vice Chair, thank you so much for the accolades and all that you've been doing and the work we've been doing to get the word out. Certainly appreciate that. We were fortunate to receive, if not on a temporary basis, at least, is for free, from the North Carolina Central University's Accord program. They are going to provide us with an ultra cold storage freezer that is going to be able to hold 56,000 vials of COVID vaccine. So again, it's Durham standing tall, it's Durham standing together, it's our community coming together. Shout out to North Carolina Central and Dr. William Pilkington and company. We certainly appreciate that. The unfortunate thing is this is a 2-dose vaccine. So of course you got to get your first shot, and then 21 days later, you have to get your second shot. We're going to have a number of different tools in our toolbox in order to ensure that you get that second shot, to include you get your card in your first shot. Then we're going to get, sign you up to get automated calls. There's going to be somebody calling you, live telephone call. There's a whole elaborate system that I will not go into detail, but the state is set up in order to ensure that to get your second shot. So again, with the logistical operational apparatus involved with ultra cold storage, unfortunately, we can't take it on the road just yet. But we do know that there are other vaccines, as explained by Dr. Cam Wolf on Friday. There are other vaccines on the horizon that will probably come toward early 2021 or late summer. But, again, 2021 is already looking fantabulous, if that's even a word, because every week there's going to be more vaccine, more players coming. So once it gets in regular rhythm, we know that we'll have vaccine coming on a weekly basis. So there's not anyone under the sound of my voice who should not be able to get vaccinated once we get through the 4 phases.
Thank you, Rod, for all of your great work. And I talk about some of the, just the increase, and you've given us, we all listen to you and your message to us every week. And you have a pretty serious message to all of us right now. Do you have any insight? Is it just community spread right now? I mean, have we been able to isolate at all? I mean, because Durham has been residents have been so amazing with wearing masks and everybody working so hard on this. Do you all have any insight into what's happening?
I think that's what's been disappointing, Chair Jacobs and others. That's what's been so disappointing. We could narrow it down to a particular segment. There were many players. I smile because now I'm thinking back over the course of the months, and it could have been at one point in time. Butner gave us a nice drop of just cases, and then of course we had the summer where we had our brown brothers and sisters, the Latinx population, and the Latin 19 Coalition, and El Centro Hispano, and La Ley, and all those different people that we work with stood tall and made sure that the awareness was there. Unfortunately, there's not a day that goes by, Chair Jacobs and others, that I'm not asking my staff, where is it coming from? What is going on? And the unfortunate thing is that it's just the surge. And a lot of it is attributed to COVID fatigue, mass fatigue. Thus my message at the beginning, we have to double down. There's so much at stake. It's our kids going back to school. It's us being able to get back to our livelihood. It's restaurants. It's so many things, so many facets of our daily lives that's affected by a personal decision, which is just to wear a mask. I'm encouraged by the aggressive stance that the new administration is embarking upon. 100 days wearing your mask that has the potential to save 50,000 lives. Because if we don't, 100,000 lives are set to die because of COVID. So this is a totally preventable disease. I have faith in Durham. I do understand that a holiday is coming, and I will give my holiday message right now. If you're going to go, we ask that you consider to take a COVID test prior to. Keep it very small, keep it outside. If it has to go inside, make sure it's well ventilated, but we would prefer virtual. It's the first time that I'm not going to see my family from Charleston and other vicinities, probably my whole life. But in order to enjoy future Thanksgivings and Christmases, this is the sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Rod, you have so much information that we could listen to you all night, but we really can't. I'm so thankful to have you as our health director, and that you are so knowledgeable about what needs to happen in this community to take care of our citizens. And I thank you for that. And I'm sure Commissioner Carter probably has questions as well, but we are going to have to move on, and so that we can try and get through tonight. But I just want to say to the listeners, if that number that you gave us earlier are any of their families, and that we just send out a condolences and just know that we wish them well, because losing someone, no matter for what reason it is, it's tough, and it's tough right now for all of our citizens that are losing family members. But thank you for your report.
Ma'am, thank you, and thank you, commissioners, for having the political will to do what's right. Food insecurity and just taking care of the unsheltered homeless. You guys are heroes, and you guys are doing what's right for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. So our next item on the agenda is, where did we go? Is discussion of the Hope Learning Centers. And the person on that Staff person on that is, I don't see a staff person. Is Drew comment?
Ma'am.
Okay.
Good evening, Chair Howerton and Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. I'm going to just do a very quick intro and then hand over the floor to the directors of our three Hope Learning Centers and the executive director of the Durham Public Schools Foundation. I want to take us quickly back to September 2020 when the county commissioners approved $405,000 and the city appropriated some money, as did the DPS Foundation, money that they had raised to provide some of the most vulnerable youth in Durham with a safe, supportive environment where they could pursue their remote learning. Durham Public Schools initially also provided 6 of these remote learning centers and then dropped that down to 3. The 3 Hope Learning Centers are located at Student U, the YMCA, and Kate's Corner. And again, the county funding was basically sufficient to help carry that effort through first semester. You may recall from the first couple of reports that came in, enrollment ramped up over a number of weeks and even months. It is the case at this point that all of the programs, all of the Hope Centers are fully enrolled, although as some noticed with the most recent report, attendance has still been hampered in part by ongoing COVID concerns and also transportation difficulties. More active conversation about the second semester needs and the resources that would be necessary to support those needs ramped up in late November, just as the former board was finishing their term and the new board was starting theirs. I want to acknowledge that this would have been much better as a work session item, but we lost our December work session and so didn't really have the opportunity for that, our normal kind of discussion item. The providers have been in very active conversation with Durham Public Schools, and I want to point out that they also represent a very close connection to these most vulnerable students and their families, and have a lot of good information about what needs those families are experiencing. Also want to acknowledge briefly the additional materials that were received midday today, and to note that commissioners may not have had sufficient time to absorb that information. I think we'll all, be in agreement that this is a conversation that does need to keep moving, even if, as I anticipate, we need to continue the conversation into the new year. And with that, I want to hand the floor over to Alexandra Zagbayou, the Executive Director of Student U, Perry from the Durham YMCA, and Kate Goodwin from Kate's Corner. Alexandra, I think I'll start with you unless you want to recognize somebody else.
Excuse me, just before you start, Alexandra, just so that for the public know that if we stop this conversation, it's not that we're ending it, that it will end up moving on to our work session because there's so much information that needs to be gathered, and tonight we won't have the time to really thoroughly vet it. So just so the public will understand what's happening. Thank you. Go ahead,
Thank you so much. Drew and Chairwoman Howerton, welcome to the new members of the County Commissioners. We're happy to have you and to get to work with you. As Drew has mentioned, we came to you in August, concerned about the needs of young people in our community as we started to recognize that schools were likely to open in Plan C and that many children in our communities would not have a safe place to be able to continue to learn. Through your investments, we have been able to support over 300 students in our community. We have been able to hire about 41 people in our community to support our work. Most of our students that we have the pleasure of serving and supporting are African American and Latinx students in our community. And between our centers, the YMCA serves about 17 schools. Student Youth serves about 24 schools, and Kate's Corner as well. We are here because we are looking to second semester. And as you all know, as of today, the Board of Education has decided that we will operate in Plan C, but that students in K through 5 will have the option to opt in to school instruction if we are below a 4% positivity rate for at least 2 weeks. As of last week, the school board voted to ensure that their learning centers were open until at least January 29th to give them the opportunity to come back in January and see whether or not students will be moving back into that in-person instruction or remaining remote. Our partners are here today because we're thinking ahead, because we have been working with these students and their families, and they're asking us, are you going to be here with us second semester? This is something that has been really beneficial to our students, and we want to make sure that we're able to give them confidence about whether or not we'll be able to work with their children moving forward. I'm going to leave that here. Wanted to give you that context about what's happening at DPS and how that's impacting us. And I'm going to pass it over to Kate to tell you a little bit more about when we talk about seeing over 300 students, what does that actually look like in the day-to-day? Because it's really easy to talk about numbers without recognizing that we're talking about young people and what that looks like in the week. I'm going to let Kate talk about that, and then Forrest is going to close us out to leave space for your questions because we know that you have many. Thank you for the opportunity.
My name is Kate Goodwin. So greetings to the county manager and the chair, commissioners and staff and our community that's listening. Also, congratulations and welcome to our new commissioners that have come aboard. I literally am going to just tell you thank you in many ways that I have expressed out loud openly about the need for the learning centers for our children and who we serve every day. And I could tell you 1,000 stories about how grateful our parents are for having a place to bring their children that is safe. But sometimes when we're in this pandemic, we forget that there are children who are so vulnerable. A number of our children, we have partnered with Families Moving Forward. I've got 6 families that come from there every day, whether it's cold or sleeting or raining. They walk and they make sure that they get their children there for distance learning. The impact for families who have children who have mild illnesses and cannot be in a larger setting, who've come to us and allowed us to know that this has been such a great thing for their children, for their mental health. What I think is more impactful though, is that when I began to understand how the formation of support was happening throughout the community, I began to share with my staff that we are a pod for this community of children who don't have a voice usually, and who are working really hard to be able to maintain, who came to us behind 2 years and are further getting behind. And so we're doing this work to help them keep up with their work and inspiring them and giving them outlets. And I know that we couldn't have done it without you all. So I am an advocate beyond measure for the justice in education. And I know that we play an instrumental role in helping these children be able to thrive. I will publicly say and put on record that I believe that children should be in school. They need their educators, but we know that if that is not possible because of COVID, they also need a safe place to be. So we know that the CPS case managers who have come to us, who we've been able to take those children out of vulnerable situations and provide a safe place, can't express enough how important this is. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for making an impact for our children, but also thank you for putting children first. That's just all this is about for me and my partners, is that children come first. And if we can keep that mindset and we can continue to get that support, it's very important to the work we're doing.
Commissioners, Good evening. My name is Forrest Perry, and I work with the YMCA. And I too would like to echo my congratulations to our new board members with us tonight, Chair Howerton, Manager Davis, and
Thank you,
staff.
Forrest.
Thank you for having us with you. As Kate and Alexandra have articulated so well already, we have been working over the past several months to provide a safe and supportive place for our students to learn. And while we set out on this journey hoping that we would only need your support through the first semester, unfortunately, as we continue to learn, the pandemic just continues to intensify. And at this point, as Alex referenced, we are anticipating needing to continue supporting these students into the second semester. So tonight, and part of the memo that Drew referenced, in that memo, our proposal to you tonight is to consider a funding request to help sustain and help support these centers moving into the second semester. As Alex referenced earlier, between the 3 sites that Student U, Kate's Corner, and the YMCA serve, we're currently serving approximately 306 students. And to sustain that for the entirety of the 3rd quarter, which runs through the middle of the next semester, is about $615,000. However, Chair Howerton, I know you referenced that this conversation may roll over into future meetings. So I know the board appreciates having options for consideration. One of the additional options that we wanted to present that's in addition to the memo tonight is a consideration of funding the last 2 weeks in January at a cost of $124,000. As noted, the funding previously supplied will get us through the end of the first semester, which expires around January 15th. But again, to be able to say with certainty to our families that we have the resources to support them through the end of the month of January, which as a point of reference, I think is important based on the Durham Public Schools board meeting schedule and when they may or may not ultimately decide whether or not children have the opportunity to return to in-person learning. So tonight we'd like to ask you to consider both of those. We understand the larger amount may be a more in-depth conversation that's needed to fully support that. However, we would like to ask you to entertain the smaller abridged amount this evening. And one thing that I think is important to represent, this program as delivered by Student U and Kate's Corner and the YMCA has been fully supported through your support, the support of the city, the support of Durham Public Schools Foundation, and the unfortunate alternative to that, the unfortunate trade-off to that is that these programs cannot continue without your support. So we have funding to run us through January 15th right now, but if there is not additional funding provided, we will unfortunately have to bring these centers to a close on that date. So with that, I'll pause again. Thank you for having us with you this evening, and we'll pause and take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Forrest, and thank you, Kate, for your presentation, and Alexandra. Now I would like to start with the 2 new commissioners because there is so much of this information that they're just seeing for the first time. So I'd like to start with the questions with Commissioner Alam.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming and presenting this information and for all the work you've been doing to make sure our kids continue to get a quality Durham public school education. And I also want to take a moment to thank all of our DPS educators who have been working tirelessly through this pandemic to make sure that our students continue to receive an education through Zoom education. I did have a few questions. And this one is like a personal one for me as a public school student who had to take full advantage of the different programs that were available for students with different learning difficulties and differences. What resources are available for the students in your programs who may have learning differences?
I'll speak to that. I'm kind of glad you asked that. When we talk about learning differences, we talk about barriers. So children who have IEPs, I will openly say we haven't had a lot of support in that area. We have definitely asked for that support because it is imperative that those children get that support. So what we've been able to do in my hiring, I look for people who had been in education, who have been able to like work on a one-on-one basis with some of the children, and advocated for the parents to get information from the school so that we could help them. But being able to have a professional setting in our centers, we have not yet been able to obtain that in our partnership with DPS, but we're working to hopefully get that in the next semester as we move forward.
And I had a couple more. What are the demographics of the students who are participating in these programs or enrolled?
Yeah, I'm happy to share. As I shared earlier, most of our students are African American and Latinx. I'm happy to share a little bit more about student use numbers. We're about 41% African American, 48% Latinx, 5% multiracial, 5% white, and 2% Asian in our centers, and I will let others share as well. But I do think it's important to remember that in our outreach, which the county commissioners really pushed us on, we worked with not only schools, but also created a community info sheet that we sent out to an incredible amount of partners to let them know about the work in English and in Spanish, and partnered with DHA as well to make sure that we were getting the information out to the communities that fit the criteria that we set, which included students who might have been experiencing homelessness, students whose families might have become unemployed, students who had parents who were essential workers and were therefore not able to be home with their children, and children who lived in Durham Housing Authority housing. So that is the process by which we have shared with the community. And I know that we all continue to get referrals from students, from teachers, from schools, from social workers for the students who are coming to our programs.
And one of the last questions I have, I'll let Commissioner Burns go then. I know, Kate, you had kind of hinted towards this, but I was wondering if maybe you could elaborate a little bit more about the type of feedback that you've received from the families and the students who are enrolled in these programs.
Yeah, the feedback is amazing. They do believe that our centers were a godsend for them because they didn't have a means and able to go to work. They weren't able to, so we work closely with families moving forward. And that the group of the homeless shelter for families, they're trying to get on their feet. So to not have a place to be able to either go look for a job or be able to obtain employment or be able to, facilitate school, their online learning themselves. So it's been great. And it's not a safe place all the time for, I used to work at urban ministries. So in that area, it just fosters a certain environment. So they've been grateful to have a safe place for their children to come. A lot of the schools, the staff, the principals have come and visited my center. They're just so super happy to see children they haven't seen since before the spring, because there are a large number of children who had not logged on and had not actively been doing on distance learning. And then all of a sudden they pop up in their classrooms. So the community's response and the family's response are just gratitude. There's a lot of gratitude for just making sure that their children are safe and they have, the window that they need to be able to get back on their feet.
Yeah, and I echo everything that Kate said, and I think I would add families have also been really appreciative of the transparency around how we're keeping their children safe. We know that we are in the middle of a pandemic, and one of the things that we needed to do to ensure students were able to be in our space is being clear about what we're going to do and what measures we're putting in place to create the safest environment. And so I think families have been particularly grateful of both the expectations and the clear transparency that we've had with them during this whole time. That's enabling them to be able to send their children with peace, that their children are not just going to have an opportunity to do school, but that we're going to make sure that they're in the safest conditions possible when they are with us.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Commissioner Burns.
I know how hard you all have been working. I mean, if not for COVID, I would hug many of you. But according to Joanne and Rodney Jenkins, I don't think I should be hugging anybody anytime soon. I'm happy that Netta got out the feel good questions because I'm about to do the bean counter questions. So she just knows she took all the feel good ones from me. And that if mine seem harsh, they are not harsh. It's just because we don't have this information yet. So the first thing, because there was an ask made at the very end about $615,000 and another $124,000. One of the things that I desperately want to know, you all have come to us with the ask, and you've noted that there have been multiple partners from the city to the DPS Foundation. And so my question is, do you plan on asking these other entities to help you with this $615,000? And with all due respect, you all stated you've raised money. How much have you raised?
So
not all at one time.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Burns. I'll take the first part, and then maybe after I finish, I can pass it over to Megan to talk a little bit about the DPS Foundation's fundraising efforts. So Commissioner Burns, so it's an interesting dynamic on this call because you have Alex, Kate, and myself, and then you also have Megan. So after this call, Alex, Kate, and myself are asking Megan and the DPS Foundation for money and funding for this initiative directly as well. They were one of the partners in the first semester. In the conversations we had with the city and the county back in August and September, we walked away from those conversations feeling like there was a better possibility for continued funding from the county than there would be from the city. And so that's why we are starting here. But so in the memo, and again, we apologize for the late submission on that, but in the memo provided today, Drew did lift up that we are going to be asking the DPS Foundation to help us continue with funding for the remainder of the semester, so into the fourth quarter. And Megan and the work of the DPS Foundation, they've been really spearheading the fundraising effort outside of public-private partnerships.
Right.
So Megan, did you want to speak a little bit to that work?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. As I think was shared earlier, so the DPS Foundation provided $300,000 toward learning centers the first semester, and that included supporting the DPS learning centers. So these funds are all part of the DPS Foundation's Accelerating Digital Equity campaign. So we have 4 priority areas for funds that come from that campaign. So learning centers is one of our big priorities. It's been by far the largest allocation we've made. The 3 other funding priority areas are actual devices and Wi-Fi hotspot needs that students may have, professional development for teachers and delivering remote learning, and technical support for students and families in navigating online learning. So our board makes funding decisions on how funds are allocated out of that campaign. We have raised about $1.4 million so far toward a $1.5 million goal in that campaign to support those 4 areas of digital equity for our students during remote learning. We've allocated about $800,000 so far. 300 of that was for learning centers. We have encouraged another learning center request to come to support learning centers in the spring. And again, that'll be a decision that our board of directors makes. But we have been strong advocates for learning centers and partners in this effort because we really believe that the learning centers are a critical piece of what we think of as the ecosystem that has to be in place for our students to be able to be successful this year.
Okay, and again, some of these I will be following up with by email. I wanted to know if off the top of your head, of those 306 students, how many of them were already Student U or YMCA students? I know that the commissioners asked you to actively go out and look for new students, and Megan, that might not be one for you, but for some of the other folks, as I look through this brief, I see that, nothing bad about it because every department has seen this. We've seen some contraction from COVID. Of course, there's no proof that it started at your centers. We've also seen that if we don't hit that 4%, that the county is looking to shut down the remaining learning centers. And I do think you all do great work, but I think it's important that the public knows that those are some of the issues that we're facing. So again, back to the original question, and I'll just ask both of them just for time and so that people can be thinking about the answers. Again, how many of these students were originally Student U and YMCA students? Because I'm concerned about just about recruitment. And do you all have any any data right now? And I hate to ask for data because the kids are under an extreme amount of pressure on how well these 306 students are actually progressing in their classrooms right now. And I'll start, and those are my two questions.
Yeah, I'm happy to go first. On behalf of Student U, we're about 50-50, 50% Student U students and 50% community students. We do not create a priority for Student U students. It is literally first come, first serve, which is really important to us as an organization because that is the vision of the work. So it is literally, if the spot is filled, we are not bumping students because they're not Student U students. It is a first come, first serve process, which is what we've told all families who are participating. I think it's important to name that all of the students are Durham Public School students or students who are part of our charter communities, and this is who we are trying to serve. And your last question, we have asked DPS for that data directly. So we have asked at Student U for DPS to give us records of all of the students who are in our learning center so we can have a sense of, yes, we're supporting them, but we're trying to see the bigger picture so that we can also be extra proactive about second semester. So what is happening with students? Are they progressing at the rate that we need them to? Are there ways that we can shift or add services to our learning centers? These are questions that we are asking and we're waiting to get that data back. As you know, there is an incredible amount of privacy around data sharing. And so it is a process. We are moving as quickly as we can. And as soon as we know, we would like to know so we can hold ourselves accountable, but we will be happy to share that with you all. These are absolutely fair questions that you're asking, Commissioner Burns.
And before somebody else answers, you're providing transportation or not?
So Durham Public Schools has agreed to provide transportation to all the learning centers, but unfortunately that has not been able to start.
That's what I was thinking.
What we understand is that DPS has been doing an incredible amount of work to imagine 1 million transportation routes if students go back to schools, which has delayed their ability to create routes for us. But we did get routes on late Friday night. So what we know now is that by the top of January, our students will be able to have transportation for Durham Public Schools, and we hope that that will be sustained should we get the funding to keep the centers open, that we will be able to transport all of the students who have requested it. And for our center, it's over 30% of our students have requested transportation in order to be able to attend on a daily basis, which is really important to us. So we have been working as quickly as we can, but we're in a pandemic and everyone is stretched. So we are doing our best to be persistent and also to give grace as our district is doing an incredible amount of things right now. I'm going to let Forrest answer the question.
Yeah. So commissioners, you see why this has to be a longer, lengthy conversation. We are allocated 25 minutes for this conversation, and that 25 minutes is up. One of the things that I suggest, I see you, Mr. Jacobs, hang on just a second, please, is that you send these folks your questions to get ready for the work session, because it's no way we can have this conversation to the degree that we need to have it tonight, because we need to do justice to this conversation for our children.
Madam Chair, if I may, I just have one suggestion.
All right, just let me finish.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were. I apologize.
Okay. I don't want this conversation rushed, and it's just no way we can get it done tonight. So Commissioner Jacobs had her hand up. If you have a quick question and the response, we need to hold the response and be able to get those responses at the work session.
Yeah, I agree.
And then Commissioner Carter, okay? Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, I agree. We need to have the follow-up conversation about the full request, but I would like to make a motion to address the first request that we got, which was for $124,000 to vote to give direction on that at this meeting, because as we heard from the 3 providers, they need that information now to be able to tell their families and their staff. So I support that, and I'm making a motion tonight for the $124,000 and to continue the request and the rest of the questions at our work session.
I second.
I second.
Okay, and there's been a motion and a second. Before we carry the motion through, I want to hear from our finance folks.
Hi,
Commissioner Howerton, as I'm available to answer question if there are questions. I would assume that the commissioners are asking for this 120 some odd thousand to come from the available 819,000 that's left from the COVID supply of dollars that we have. Is that the request?
Should we make that motion? Oh, go ahead, Wendy. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Jacobs.
Well, you go for it.
No, I was going to say, with what Keith said, maybe we should make that an amendment to your request and say, and just add that in there. So that was all I was going to say. If that's
Thank
fine.
you, Commissioner Burns. I will amend my motion accordingly to reflect that the 124,000 be from our remaining balance of 809,000, I think, or whatever it was. Keith, can you specify?
There's $819,000 approximately, a few dollars.
Okay,
and
thank
you
you,
want to
Keith.
take 124,000 from that amount.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, so would you repeat the motion, please?
Motion that we approve the 124,000 to for the continuation funding for the end of January for the Hope Learning Centers, and for that funding to come out of the remaining Board of County Commissioners COVID Relief Fund, which has a remaining balance of $819,000.
And I second that.
And it's been motioned and second. We have to have a voice vote. So
any further discussion?
Any further discussion? Commissioner Carter, quickly.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I just want to say I am going to vote for this motion. You know, we didn't hesitate about extending the food for our families. This is no less important. It's a disaster for children remote learning. It's for so many of our kids, and I really appreciate the efforts of Kate Goodwin and Forrest Perry for the Y and Alexander Zagbai with Student U to help address what is really a national emergency and a crisis. And at the very least, I hope this will pass to extend through January with the understanding that we're going to further vet further funding.
Okay, so commissioners, Commissioner Alam, there's been a motion. Is a yes? Commissioner Jacobs?
Yes.
Commissioner Burns?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
And Commissioner Howerton is a yes. That's 5-0, motion passes. Thank you so much. And we'll move the rest of it to our work session.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
One point of privilege, Commissioner, I just want to share one thing with our board. I listened in on a seminar today from the National Association of County Officials that I will share the link to the information. And they just did a study on the impact of COVID on children and families, which ties into what we just talked about tonight, and how families of, Black families, Latinx families, and especially single parents who are struggling right now, and the mental health and stress and the trauma and just the concern about the long-term trauma to families. And that's what we are so passionate about, is ACEs and trauma. So thank you to all of you providers for the incredible work you're doing. We're grateful to you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Let's move on to the next item is boards and appointments. So, Mr. Seiler, you have that information?
There we go. Madam Chair, members of the board, the first board that you will be appointing people to is the Durham Open Space and Trails Committee. You have one vacant position, and you've selected Zia Ming Howie. The next board is the Environmental Affairs Board. You've got one vacant position. The board has selected Wilson Sauls. The next board is the Homeless Services Advisory Committee. You have one vacant position. You all have selected Michael Best. And the next board is the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. There's one vacant position, and you've selected Zora DeBerry. And that concludes your votes.
Thank you, Attorney Seiler, and congratulations to all of the members that were appointed. Commissioners, we have a couple of items that were pulled from the consent agenda for discussion. Commissioner Jacobs, I believe there was 650.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so I guess I'll try to be very direct with my questions, because again, we have not, I know we we were not able to have a work session this month, and I understand that, but this item it's been a long time since we discussed it. And one of the concerns that I had when it was first brought to us was how we are ensuring that these units will stay affordable in perpetuity. So if somebody could point me to where in the master development agreement, where it is speaking directly to the length of time that they will remain affordable. When I read through it, I saw a reference to the ground lease on page 8. Also on page 40 was references to that. But I really wasn't clear when I read through it how we are really assuring the long-term affordability. We're investing a lot of public money into this. Our community wants there to be affordable housing, and we don't want to invest in this and all of a sudden, 10 years later, they're market rate again. And I know we had originally said in perpetuity. So I just would like to understand where this issue is addressed in the agreement. The second issue is I didn't see the breakdown reflected in the agreement of the types of affordable units. I know that we have a certain breakdown for these units of, how many are 30% AMI below, how many are 15 below, how many, and the types of bedrooms for different types of families. But the only thing I saw in the contract was 80% AMI and below. So if the legal staff could please point me to where we have those things are protected and guaranteed in this agreement.
Okay, this is Anthony Fox. I don't know if I'm the appropriate one to answer this, but and oh, by the way, congratulations to the new board members and Madam Chair and members of the board. It's a pleasure to be before you tonight. If you can turn to the ground lease section, which is 2.4 of the agreement, The way this is structured is that the property that we are allowing the affordable housing to be built on is pursuant to a ground lease. The agreement is that the units be affordable and that the ground lease runs for a 99-year term, but in the 36th year of the agreement, the parties will agree to renegotiate the terms of the ground lease, such that if we cannot come to terms at that point in time, the ground lease will revert back to the county as well as all the improvements. So the county would end up controlling the units and the property at that time. Also, if I can point you to the definition of affordable, in the definition section, affordable housing is defined in that section. Affordable units is defined in that section based upon 110 units serving residents at least 60% of the AMI.
60, okay.
Okay, and then you've got at least 22 of the units will serve residents earning 30% of AMI.
Okay.
So you've got a definition in there.
Okay, so what page is that on? That definitions? I didn't see that.
Definition is on page 4 of the NDA.
Okay.
The definitions for affordable units. And the other reference to the ground lease is on 2.4.
Right, I saw that and I didn't, so does that mean, I guess to get clarification, are you saying that if whoever's around in 36 years, where is it explicit though, that means, where is that explicit that involves the decision-making around the affordability of the units and maybe their inability to, whoever's owning the property then, if they, for financial reasons, they can't make it work for them and they no longer want to be a part of the deal anymore. Can you explain how is that explicit that refers to affordability?
Yeah, well, it says in there that we will enter into a ground lease with the developer at closing, and then in the 36th year of the ground lease, the parties will negotiate in good faith the terms and condition of a new ground lease, including affordability restrictions. And
Okay.
that would be provided in that.
Okay. Thank you. And I'd also wanted to ask Perry, we've made a lot of changes relating to the parking deck. That is one thing that we did revisit within the past year. And are those reflected, the changes that we made, are they reflected in this agreement?
Yes, commissioners. I wish you would be a little bit more specific about what your concern is.
Right. So we had asked about sustainability and that we would build in certain features related to sustainability. And you had come back with us about things that were going to be done. And I just I didn't see it in here. So I just.
Yeah, that's a good question, commissioners. What we're targeting with this parking deck is what they call a green E-certification. And so that is similar to a LEED rating on a building. That is the sort of rating criteria for parking decks. And so that's something that we're going to pursue. And that's really kind of totally on the county. That is sort of reflected in the county's construction document and specifications associated with the deck, not necessarily for the MDA of the overall development. So we are pursuing that, and everything that you guys mentioned at our August, I think it was August 26th, was the last time we were before you with the design development update and a decision to expand the childcare. We have also accommodated that in the MDA as well. So I think we have addressed all of your concerns, at least at that time.
Okay, yeah, I saw about and I want to applaud you all going from 58 up to 68 children. for the facility. So thank you. for doing-
86.
What's that?
86.
Yeah, we're up to
Oh.
86.
Oh, I transcribed it wrong when I wrote it down. Sorry, 86.
Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, so I really applaud you all for doing that, as well as going up from 105 units to 110 units as well is the other change that I noticed. So thank you. Okay, well that I think makes me feel a lot better getting those questions answered. I really appreciate the explanations. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So the other item is 663 that you pulled.
So yeah, those were the questions I had asked about that were just about understanding which funding was continuing from the original allocation and which was the new. I wasn't clear on that because there's been a lot of different housing related deals with the Carolina Duke and with Reinvestment Partners. And then I was just asking about the MOA and possible FEMA reimbursement.
Yes, thank you for those questions. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We hear you.
So quickly, the additional $400,000 is still coming out of the $1.01 million that commissioners approved in July as we were moving the residents of Urban Ministries from the Marriott Arch up to, some of them went back to Urban Ministries, right? But those who were more medically vulnerable, we moved back to the Carolina Duke Inn. And the reason we've ended up having a little more money than we anticipated available out of that slightly over $1 million is that some of the state ES funds have come in to support some of the support services that Urban Ministries is providing. So we anticipated that we might need to cover those expenses, but in the end, the state was able to cover some of them. In terms of the burn rate for the 64 rooms that we have out there is about $150,000 a month if they're all full. So we will, over October, November, December, should be about fully expending the initial contract amount, and are looking for another 400 to carry us through most, if not all, of the next 3 months. You all are aware, I think, that the state's non-congregate waiver is being renewed a month at a time. So we don't have to go another 3 months. We can go basically close to up to an additional 3 months, depending on how that plays out. To your question of the MOA, I'll speak briefly to that and then see if Leslie O'Connor or anybody else can add. We have continued to have conversations with finance and to discuss with them what finance believes the documentation requirements will be from state EM or from FEMA, right? Any reimbursement request we would use would have somewhat similar information requirements. And so we are continuing to get feedback from finance and then working with the providers to see kind of what processes, what documentation we think will support reimbursement, regardless of which path we end up taking. And that's our goal, to kind of get the process and the documentation to that point. We have not quite there yet, but when we do, you will either see an MOA for approval or get some further information about how we plan to seek reimbursement for those funds.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Carter.
Thank you. Drew, while we're on this one, I was surprised to see mention that the county may issue an RFP for COVID positive housing options. I thought we were going to do that. Just wondering where things stand there.
I don't know if Leslie is on and can give her.
Yeah.
There
She's
she is.
next to you on my screen.
She's there.
Sure. Thank you, commissioners. So the RFP for COVID positive is currently in process. we are seeking all potential housing options that may be available through this. So not limiting it only to hotels, but really any apartment owners, duplex owners, anyone that may have availability that we can move forward. We are with working to extend this with reinvestment partners. It still allows us to be able to put those most vulnerable at the Carolina Deep End to keep them out of shelters. And that also gives us 3 additional months for us to look at the metrics in conjunction with urban ministries and with public health to try and determine what are the metrics going to be over the next 3 months to determine, do we continue on with this process? Do we and keep it the way that it is? Do we adapt the process? Or at that point in time, could we potentially be where we need to be in our mitigation strategy against COVID-19 to no longer have to do this process? And so we'll continue on with those metrics, and based on kind of where we are with the mitigation strategies of COVID, make the determination with public health to see if this is something that needs to be continued or not.
Thank you. And so I hear what you're saying about, we'll have to sort of reassess on all the metrics and that sort of thing, but we are moving forward with the RFP for COVID positive for now. Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Fantastic.
Commissioner Carter, we are.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Other questions, commissioners? Okay, if not other questions, we got a motion to approve 0663 and 0650.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, voice vote. Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
Commissioner Alam?
Yes.
Commissioner Burns?
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. It's 5-0. It passes. Okay. So that's all of the consent agenda. All right. Now we are moving on to get back down to the bottom.
Closed.
We have closed session. Who said that?
I don't know.
So we have a closed session. The board is requested to adjourn to closed session for the following: to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body, including agreement on a tentative list of economic development incentives that may be found by the public body, offered by the public body in negotiations pursuant to GS 143-318-1A4. And then the second one is to establish or to instruct the public body staff or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the price and other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property to purchase, option, exchange, or lease, the amount of compensation and other material terms of an employment contract to proposed employment contract pursuant to GS 143-318-11A5. And we're in closed session.
So moved.
Second? I need a second.
Second.
Okay, and a voice vote. Commissioner Jacobs?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
Commissioner Lom?
Yes.
Commissioner Burns? Commissioner Burns? Commissioner Burns?
Yes, it's on mute. I apologize. I'm saying it.
Commissioner Howerton as a yes. Passes 5-0. We're in closed session. All right.
Chair Howerton, I would just like to announce to the commissioners to follow the information in the closed session email that I sent to you guys. And the first item that will be discussed is the location or expansion, the first statute.
Closed session, where is it? So we got out of this one.
Are we going to go off of live on YouTube?
Yeah, we're gonna close out of this one and go to the closed session link.
YouTube will actually still be up, but our closed session is completely separate, so it won't be shown at all.
So we don't leave out of this one?
Yes, ma'am, you do. I'm sorry, I was responding to Commissioner Alam. You will go ahead and leave out of this meeting. Perry?
Yes, Monica, I can hear you.
All right, you and your team can call on over into the closed session.
Okay, I hope everyone else on the call heard that. So thank you.
So we have Nancy, Jody, and Jane.
I got it. I'll head over there now.
Thank you.
I'm headed there too.
Thank you.
No, sir, Mr. Manager, I'm still here.
Jane, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Want to remind you that
you can also do okay, when I do that. Happy birthday.
Jane, I will need you to hang up from the Zoom call and call into the go-to meeting. That was a separate email that was sent to you. Jane?
I think we're ready.
Happy birthday, almost.
Thank you so much.
We're definitely you guys in.
Nid, I bet you were the first one in.
Yeah, I realized I think I clicked leave a little too quick.
Because you're the one who knows this technology better than any of us.
I will have to say I did have to get Monica's help with the Zoom link again before this morning, for this afternoon's meeting. So Monica's been saving me.
I don't believe it.
All right. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So we met in closed session, gave on the economic development, gave directions to staff. And on the, there's a couple of other motions. I get a motion to approve the purchase of vacant real property owned by Abel Herndon and identified as PIN 171556 and PIN 171557 and PIN 171558 for a total amount of $50,000, and to authorize the county manager to execute all sale agreements and related documents required to complete the transaction. Can we do the both of them at the same time, attorney? Or do we have to do one at a time?
Is he on there?
I think he just joined, so you may
Yeah.
have to repeat the question.
Can we do both of them at one time, or do we have to vote on each one individually?
Individually.
Okay. So can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
A voice vote, Commissioner Burns.
Aye.
Commissioner Alam.
Aye.
Commissioner Carter.
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs.
Aye.
Passes 5. Commissioner Howerton, aye. Passes 5-0. The second one is to approve a 10-year lease agreement with Tiffany Bull LLC in the amount of $20 per square foot per year for 3,057 square feet, increasing 3% per year, plus a common area maintenance fee to be adjusted annually for restaurant suite 150 in the County Administration Building 2 located at 201 East Main Street, and authorized the county manager to execute the lease. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. A voice vote. Commissioner Carter.
Aye, and I can't wait to have my first beer at Tipsy Bull.
Commissioner Jacobs.
Aye, but you can't get tipsy.
Commissioner Alam.
Yes. Aye.
Commissioner Burns.
Aye, and I will have a burger with you.
Commissioner Howerton is a yes. It passes 5-0.
Thank you, everybody.
Get a motion to adjourn.
Happy
Motion
birthday,
to recess.
Motion to recess.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn or to rescind?
I said recess.
Adjourn.
Adjourn.
Adjourn. You need
The
a
Lord
second?
said so.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Wait, can we get clarification? I thought we were recessing until the 16th.
Yeah, I did too.
I did too.
You've already done it.
We've already done that. We're recessing. We're adjourning this meeting.
Meeting.
Okay.
Got it.
Well-
And we got
Right.
4 minutes to motion, okay?
Happy birthday, Commissioner Law.
Thank you.
Alam,
Aye.
Commissioner Burns,
Aye.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs,
Aye.
Commissioner Howerton is an aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you
Bye,
all.
everybody.
Hey.
Nita, have a great day tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank you.